Welcome. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Lauren Adler, and I'm the Director of Product for Transparent Path, and I will be your host today. I'm joined by Paul A. Wood, our Director of Experience, who's going to provide technical support and some help with the Q&A. This session will be recorded, and it will be made available on the Net Capital website. So we're here today to talk about supply chain certainty with Eric Weaver. He is the founder and CEO of Transparent Path, and Mark Kammerer, our Chief Commercial Officer. You've probably heard a lot about supply chain disruptions during the COVID era and how antiquated technologies are preventing companies from seeing costly issues until after they happen. Today, we're going to talk about this uncertainty and how Transparent Path addresses it for small and mid-sized food producers. This talk is focused primarily around investing in supply chain visibility and the rewards around this industry opportunity. We're currently raising funds using netcapital.com and encourage everyone to get more details there. Please visit netcapital.com/companies/transparent-path for more information. So we have 30 minutes today to cover this important topic. I'm going to start by asking Eric a few questions about how Transparent Path got started and what drove him to give up a long corporate career to attack this uncertainty in the food supply chain. So Eric, why did you start this venture?
Thanks, Lauren. And hi, everyone. Welcome to our first webinar. We're very excited. And we originally called it a fireside chat, which is why it looks like the fires of hell are burning on my head. But I got started, I started Transparent Path in 2018. I had been working for Xerox Corporation, which in addition to printers and copiers has their vaunted park, Palo Alto Research Center out in Palo Alto, California. They had produced printed electronics in sensor form. So, for example, you could track the temperature, humidity, etc. of a product and have it be printed on a thin film similar to this. So we're looking at the possibility of turning our traditional electronics, which have a lot of copper and solder, into a printed product. Park had perfected this process. And at the time I was thinking, based on the food companies that I had talked to at Xerox, they were all looking for a way to track their food products better. One company in particular, a huge global chocolate company out of Italy, had told me that they had no visibility into their supply chain. And containers full of very expensive chocolate would show up at retailers and half of the product would be melted. And my thought was that if we could provide a continuous cold chain tracking capability at Xerox, that we could offer a very valuable service to some of these companies that have perishable products, high-end foods, spices, chocolate, proteins like fish or beef, for example. So, the idea was to basically build a company that could do this at scale and do this in a cost-effective way using this kind of printed technology. So that's how I got started. Based on those conversations, we know that there's an appetite for this type of solution, and it was, I hadn't signed a non-compete, and I thought, why not? Let's go ahead and chase this.
Great. So what was it about this business problem why did you choose to solve the business problem of food insecurity and uncertainty in the supply chain?
This started out before COVID, but COVID just exacerbated it and really made it clear that the supply chain for food is not bulletproof. It's pretty good in the United States. It's pretty efficient, generally speaking, when everything is working, especially when we have labor. But when labor is not present due to illness or when things get sort of knocked off kilter a little bit, things can go sideways. And we saw this during the early days of the pandemic when farmers were plowing crops into the field, while food banks were screaming for food because folks were not able to afford groceries like they had been. We also saw truck drivers who were not willing to drive to New York State during the height of their worst part of the pandemic, or not willing to drive to Florida or Texas, or products in Florida or Texas that weren't getting back out to the rest of the country because people weren't coming into work. So that really made it clear and accelerated the need for this visibility so that we can not only tell when something's going to happen, but we can anticipate it using AI and stopping these things before they even happen. So that's why this specific business problem.
Okay, great. Thank you, Eric. So I'm going to turn to Mark Kammerer, our Chief Commercial Officer. Maybe, Mark, if you can tell us a little bit about yourself and how you became interested in solving food supply chain issues.
Sure. Thanks, everyone, for attending today. My name is Mark Kammerer. I became interested in solving the food insecurity problem a long time ago. I started my career at Pillsbury and General Mills and became involved in the issues of lack of food in the Minneapolis area and continued that on through the rest of the time that I've been working. I come from a family where my dad worked in the food distribution system, and I came to understand there was lots of opportunity to do better than what we were doing. But it was going to take some different thinking and some different approaches before we could get there. Eric and I met a number of years ago when I was working for Holland America Line and continued our association through the time that I was at Expedia and then back to Holland America. That allowed me to understand what was going to be required in order for this kind of problem to be addressed. So Eric and I have been working on this together now for a little over 2 years, and it's exciting. You know, it's exciting to see that we're on the cusp of bringing a product that we've already taken through concept out into some greater visibility.
And I know food is insecurity and uncertainty is near and dear to your heart. Maybe you could tell us a little bit more about your work with the Food Lifeline.
Well, I'm on the board. We live here in Seattle. I'm on the board of an organization called Food Lifeline. Food Lifeline is the largest supplier of food to the entire food banking and food distribution system that helps people who are food insecure. It's estimated now coming out of COVID that between 1 in 5 people in Washington will be food insecure, and that will continue for the next couple of years. So getting quote unquote waste out of the system, or making sure, in the way we think about it, that food that's available gets to the right places in a form that people can consume it. That's very important to me, and we can do that. That's part of what we may be able to achieve here.
Great. Well, so let's, Mark, turn a little bit to the business side of things. So supply chain visibility is a relatively nascent industry. How can you know how big the addressable market will be?
Well, that's a great question. We don't count on our own estimates. We rely on people who've done the market research. There's a research company called IDG, and they produced a report that shows that the overall collaborative supply chain management market is going to be a $30 billion opportunity. The compound annual growth rate is estimated between 8 and 15%. Some of that depends on which things come in what order in that part of the market. The other thing we know is that adopters of the technology have seen pretty remarkable ROIs on their investment. We found another research summary that showed it could be as high as 335% ROI, which any chief financial officer would be happy to get. But if it's whether it's supply chain visibility, whether it's supply chain management software, whether it's the kind of the mix of those two that we're involved in, it's an $18 to $30 billion market, and that is something we feel very confident about.
So, Mark, can you talk a little bit more about our customer acquisition strategy?
Yes, I can. To get to acquire customers, you first have to get to a commercial level technology, which is what we as a team are working on now. We've identified some market segments. The market segments are ones that would most benefit, and they support the higher margins that would benefit most from understanding the condition of their goods throughout the supply chain system. So we think about proteins, chocolate, spices, higher margin tree fruit. Because these are mostly cold chain dependent, they have the possibility of suffering higher losses and higher damage. And so that's an area that we feel is ready for a commercial approach like Transparent Path.
Okay, thanks. Eric, maybe you can talk a little bit about our funding strategy.
Sure. So we started out bootstrapping this. The first few months of the company were really about understanding not only the appetite commercially the businesses would have for this, but also who's already in the space and what are they doing. We also launched our first pilot during this bootstrapping phase, in which we traced apples from the producer in Michigan all the way through to the retailers. And so all of that was relatively low cost and relatively easy to bootstrap. We're currently now, as you mentioned at the beginning of the summit, the webinar, Lauren, that we're in a capital raise with netcapital.com using a Reg CF crowdfunding. And the idea there is to use that to get us to MVP. Once we have an MVP, we can take that and raise, do a seed round to get to version 1, at which time we'll be able to further develop our printed sensor technology and also begin to build our AI capabilities. And then after that, we get to a Series A to version 2.
Eric, can you just hold that up again and show them what you talked about the printed sensors earlier, but maybe you can just point out that that's the goal.
Yeah, so currently, and let me get the camera right here, sensor technology currently looks like this. It's big, it's bulky, it's huge, and it's a tempting thing to throw out the window on the freeway for drivers who are terrified of being tracked by the government or anyone else. And where we are going with this is currently we are using this kind of technology from Intel. It's smaller, thinner, lighter. It captures temperature, humidity, light, air pressure, tilt, shock, etc. But we're moving towards, over the next 2 years, this. This is the printed technology, an amalgam or a facsimile of this, of the printed technology. And you can see the proof tag on there, the sticker size is what we want to get this down to. The substrate would be very thin, and it would have this printed electronics sort of printed onto it. So this is where we're going in the next 2 years.
Great. Back to funding. Mark, can you talk a little bit about why we decided to do a crowdfunding raise? I mean, we have many options right now. How did we go that route? Oh, Mark, you're on mute.
There we go.
There we go.
So there are 3 reasons why. One is that we wanted to be open to as many investors as possible. And as we, at our stage of development, we had to make a choice on whether we would manage that investment raise ourselves or whether we rely on in partnership with another third party. The second is that, and it relates to the first, we need our time and attention focused on bringing our product, developing our product, and bringing it to customers. And managing a raise is something that would have taken more of our attention than we wished to. The third is that when you use a partner like Net Capital, all of the SEC requirements are handled by them, and of course they charge you, they charge you a fee to do that. Those 3 things together allowed us to say we would rather find a broad group of investors where we could talk about our message in public, than go out and spend our efforts trying to talk to people in our friends and family round. Now, Net Capital has turned out to be a good partner. There have been things as we developed with them that we learned about how a platform, what you have to do to make it effective. But we believe that using them as a base will give us the opportunity to talk to investors who are interested in us, and also for everyone to get all the information that's required in a crowdfunding raise available in one place. So if you go to netcapital.com, you will find all the relevant information for you to make an investment decision.
Great, thank you. So turning back to, or actually, Mark, if you could also talk about how we intend to use the proceeds, that would be great.
Yeah. So in the documents in NetCapital, we have this detail, but I'll do a top line for you. Of the $250,000, approximately $125,000 of it is going to be spent on developing the platform and acquiring equipment that is required for us to go through our next couple of pilots. The next largest expenditures combined together are for sales and marketing, tech overhead, and just a lot of the other smaller items that you would expect we would need to go through. So legal, accounting, HR and compliance, customer support, user development, and design. And then we also have an amount in here for taxes, travel, and team compensation. But it's primarily to develop the platform. Second part is to get it purchased and used by others and to support that, and then to keep the team moving ahead.
Great. Eric, can you talk a little bit about any accelerators, what ones you've investigated and where they fit into this?
So when we started this, we were in the summer of love for blockchain. I also call it our awkward teenage years. Everyone was chasing blockchain. It was the silver bullet that was going to solve all sorts of problems. And what became very, very clear very, very quickly was that blockchain is just a tool. It's just one piece of what is needed. Also, the other thing that people were talking about, quite frankly, is traceability, which is admittedly a very important function, a required function for platforms like ours. However, it is only one of several features that you need for real-time visibility into supply chain to prevent these losses. So the idea of blockchain for food, which is where we got started with some accelerators, was all around provenance. And when something went wrong, we could trace back very quickly. Well, why not prevent it before it happens? That was our thinking as we pursued this. So we looked at we got accepted into 5 different entities. The first one was WeWork Labs. Second was Microsoft for startups. They do not provide capital. They provide credits, for example, for Azure. And we took advantage of both of those experiences. We had 2 traditional accelerators that we initially were accepted to, but ultimately declined. One was in San Francisco, and most of the money would go towards us moving to San Francisco. And then the second one was really, there were issues around our vision lining up with theirs and how they would help us over the course of a year. So we decided to stick with our own bootstrapping at the time. Now, where we've had amazing success is with an incubator versus an accelerator called 5G Open Innovation Lab. It's equity-free. They don't take a stake in your company, and they have been an amazing partner. Not only have we got the best advice and advisory services from them, but they've led us to our partnership with Intel, who's provided us with all this wonderful technology, and with T-Mobile, who's provided us with the SIM cards for our sensors. So they've been a huge help, and we've gotten the most benefit from them.
Okay, so Mark, what's the exit strategy? Oh, you're on mute.
Here we go. Yep. So we need to prove our technology works at scale. We need to show that the sectors that we have identified can create a stable, scalable company. What that means in terms of the time frame is it's probably 4 or 5 years, and it's likely when we get our platform complete that it will be an attractive asset for a larger company to purchase. So we intend to keep close track of where the market needs might be that aren't being met by others, and make ourselves into the kind of target that ends up on people's radar screen. Part of that will be making sure we stay in partnerships like one with Intel, and also understand where our largest competitors like an IBM are moving. As many of you know, often large companies simply don't have the the time, capacity, desire to develop more further out technology and solutions, and so they look in the marketplace for who they might acquire.
Great. All right, so we've got about 10 minutes left. We're going to open up for some Q&A. Paulette, can you let us know what the audience questions are?
So far, I have a question about opportunity zones. So the economic opportunity zones, and if that would be something that would be interesting to us.
I can take that. We actually are interested in them. And in fact, when we first formed the company, we were in an opportunity zone. Unfortunately, with COVID, the opportunity zone that the company we were working with went under, and so they closed. And so there's not been a way to get back into them because we can't physically locate in an opportunity zone. So opportunity zones require that you physically locate in their occupy space for your investors to achieve certain kind of tax advantages at the other end of the sale of the investment. We're currently housed in ThinkSpace, which is along Lake Union in Seattle. We would hope when COVID is in a different state that we'll be able to get back into a place where the opportunity zone would make sense for us, and we'll keep investigating it.
Great, thank you. There's another question coming in, which is everyone working for equity, and do you have any dead equity in your cap table?
Want to do that with Eric?
Yeah, I can answer that. So other than a few freelancers and volunteers, yes, the entire management team is working for equity. God bless them. And there's no one on the cap table that is not providing some kind of value to us. So our original co-founder of the LLC, Mark Kurtz, is also providing us with basically being on the board of advisors and helping us in that way. So that's how we're currently working.
Great, thank you. And another question, do you have any customers yet, or what's your plan for customer acquisition?
We are working on getting our pilot customers, which is the kind of the normal process for taking a product through its V1. I can't speak specifically to customers because that would be a form of a forward-looking statement, which in Reg CF we're not permitted to do. We, of course, as we have customers and we have progress, that's something that we will make sure that people know about. But in this period of the raise, we have to be quite careful about stating anything that could relate to kind of revenue or customer projection. Our goal, as you would think, is to make our way through pilot, and as we make our way out of pilot, to then be able to have the sales and marketing team to go out and do the groundwork to find the customers. We have spent quite a bit of time and quite a bit of time trying to identify the right groups of people that we can talk to. We have been, Eric has been part of it, I've been part of it. So we know the process that we have to go through, but that's about all I can say to it right now.
Great, thank you. There's another question about government grants, perhaps from the FDA or USDA. Is there any movement in that area for Transparent Path?
I can respond to that. So we looked at a number of government grants. We've been referred to the USDA and to the FDA as potentially contact them and looking for grants along those lines. And the challenge with that is that grant applications, many of you know, just take a long time and they require a lot of paperwork. And it's, given the way that we're going, chasing grants versus chasing commercial opportunities, we sort of felt that it was better just to chase customers, and then the money would come through alternative investment channels. So that was the thinking behind that.
I see another question. Any interest in working with overseas companies outside of the United States?
Yeah, our technology isn't geographically specific. So we know it's really a question of making sure that the connectivity would work in other countries. We would be open to it. We're going to be disciplined about our resources, about our focus. If, and it's a big if, there's a manageable opportunity that is not based in the United States at the start, of course we would look at it. But I would say our intent is to get established here. It's a huge market, more knowable, more understandable from a regulation standpoint, and other kinds of issues that we know we'll run into as we go into operation, and more likely to be provable with a base case that then we can take other places in the world.
Great, thank you. I think there's one more question and then we'll wrap up. There's a question about, are you pursuing any corporate investments through innovation grants?
So I'll take this one. We've been contacted by a few corporate investment arms. I'm not at liberty to say who they are, but one was very interested in tracking ingredients for a beverage product, and the other is interested in showcasing us to showcase their own technology. We're very open to these kind of arrangements, in which we'd be heavily predisposed to use the sponsored corporation's technologies. One of them in particular works out very well because they're part of an ecosystem. So you've got growers and producers who were supporting, and they're a processor who uses these ingredients. So it's a perfect match. So we're looking at these, we're investigating the opportunities as they come, but this is something that I think may take on more inertia in 2021.
Great. All right, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up. Thank you so much for joining us today. If you like what you've heard, or you have others in your network who may be interested in what we're doing, please visit netcapital.com/companies/transparent-path to read more about our investor offering. If you would like to get in touch with us directly, you're welcome to contact us either through the Net Capital website, or you can contact us through our own website, which is xparent.io. We hope you'll reach out to us if you have any questions or would like to discuss our vision further. We'd love to talk to you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So thank you all and have a great day.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone.
Thanks.